The strange signal appeared on Dr. Park's monitor at 3:17 a.m. At first, he thought it was an equipment malfunction. The pattern was too regular, too deliberate to be natural cosmic noise. He called his colleague, Dr. Kim, who arrived disheveled and coffee in hand 20 minutes later. "This can't be right," Dr. Kim muttered, adjusting her glasses as she stared at the screen. "Run the verification protocol again." For the 5th time that hour, the system confirmed what they were afraid to believe. They were receiving a transmission from deep space. Not from any known satellite or space mission. Something else. 3 days later, the basement lab at Seoul National University's astronomy department had become the unexpected center of global attention. Government officials, military personnel, and scientists from every continent crowded around screens displaying the decoded portions of the signal. "It's a language. Complex, but with definable patterns," announced Dr. Park. "And it's coming from a source that appears to be moving toward our solar system." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was not alone. Half a galaxy away, Admiral June stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn, reviewing the preliminary reports on the newly discovered inhabited planet. His 6-fingered hand swiped through holographic images captured by long-range sensors. Another routine incorporation, his second-in-command, Captain Tae, said with a note of boredom. "Preliminary readings show basic space technology, unified planetary government, no significant defenses." Admiral June nodded, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the displays. The Empire had absorbed hundreds of worlds in his lifetime alone. The process was well established. Make contact, demonstrate superior technology, offer protection and benefits in exchange for resources and loyalty. Most species recognize the value of joining the galaxy's dominant power. Yet something feels different about this case, Jum said, zooming in on a particularly bright city on the night side of the blue planet. "They call themselves humans, and their world Earth. Begin standard cultural assimilation data gathering." The Imperial data systems began intercepting and translating Earth's broadcast signals, analyzing everything from entertainment to news to military communications. As information accumulated, Admiral June's unease grew. "Sir, you should see this," Captain Ta called one cycle later. He displayed footage of what appeared to be historical records from Earth, images of massive armies clashing, cities in flames, weapons of increasing sophistication. "How many planetary wars have they had?" June asked, watching scenes of destruction flash before him. "Our systems have identified at least 15,000 distinct wars over their recorded history," responded Ta. "Most species undergo 3 or 4 conflicts before reaching unity. These humans continue fighting even now." June's inner eyelids flicked with concern. "And yet they've managed to develop this level of technology, while constantly at war with themselves. Most species would have destroyed themselves." The Admiral turned his attention to another report. "What's this about warning broadcasts?" Captain Tae appeared uncomfortable. "That's the truly unusual part, sir. Since detecting our presence, they've been transmitting messages in all directions, in various frequencies and formats. Our linguists have translated them. They're telling us to stay away." June's crest rose in surprise. "Stay away. Not a greeting or plea for contact. They're warning us off." "Yes, sir. The messages are quite explicit. This solar system is under the protection of Earth. Approach at your own risk. We wish to remain isolated at this time." June let out a hissing laugh. How peculiar. What could a level 3 civilization possibly do against an empire that spans thousands of star systems? Their entire military could be neutralized by a single one of our scout ships. He studied the tactical display, showing Earth's primitive orbital satellites, a small lunar base, and a handful of exploration vessels, venturing no further than the 4th planet of their system. "Send the cultural analysis to my personal terminal," he ordered. "I want to understand these humans better before we proceed with contact." That night, As the great engines of the Imperial fleet pushed them ever closer to Earth, Admiral Jun reviewed the reports with growing fascination and alarm. Unlike the peaceful, cooperative evolution that characterized most sentient species, humans had a different pattern entirely. They competed. They fought. When faced with challenges, they developed startlingly creative solutions, often weapons. Their technological advancement wasn't steady but came in spurts, typically during conflicts. They seemed to thrive under pressure. Computer, analyze adaptation rate of Earth technology over the past century, Jun commanded. The answer came back immediately, accelerating exponentially, from primitive flight to space travel in less than 100 of their years. Current trajectory suggests quantum communication capability within 2 decades, practical faster than light theory within 50 years. Jun's crest flattened against his head, a sign of deep concern among his species. The Empire had taken 4 centuries to develop those technologies after reaching space. He issued new orders to the fleet. Increase alert status. All ships maintain defensive screens at all times when within sensor range of Earth. Diplomatic corps to prepare non-standard first contact procedures. His communications officer turned in surprise. Sir, it's just an isolated level 3 world. Standard protocol is insufficient. Jun interrupted. These humans, they're different. They're dangerous. With respect, Admiral, Captain Ta said. Our scans show primitive nuclear weapons as their most advanced armaments. They can't even harm our outer hulls. Jun stared at the image of Earth, growing larger on the main screen as they approach. It's not what weapons they have now that concerns me. It's how quickly they'll develop new ones when they feel threatened. He pointed to a particular data stream showing human military research initiatives. Look at their pattern. They learn by reverse engineering, if we give them even a glimpse of our technology. An alarm cut through the conversation. The communications officer reported, Sir, we're receiving another broadcast from Earth. It's on all frequencies, directed specifically at our fleet. On screen, Jun ordered. The message was simple, translated by the ship's computers. To AP Poro Ching vessels. This is HFY Earning. Earth DECLINE is CO NTCT8TDSS time. Maintain distance from our solar system, or do we while CO NCIDER, your AP approach and AGRASID XT. We AAVOBSERVED, your fleet's movement and TAP abilities. We are prepared to defend our sailors. The bridge fell silent. Never in the 8,000-year history of the Empire had a pre-spacefaring civilization detected them so early, much less issued threats. They're bluffing, Captain Ta said finally. They must be. Admiral Jun wasn't so sure. The intelligence reports painted a picture of a species that had evolved through constant conflict, that adapted with remarkable speed, and that consistently surprised its own members with technological leaps. Perhaps, he replied quietly. But something tells me we're about to discover exactly why these humans want us to stay away. And I wonder if it's because they fear us, or because they're protecting us from themselves. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. 50 representatives from every region of the planet sat around the circular table, their faces lit by the glow of screens displaying the same alarming image. A fleet of unknown vessels moving toward Earth at impossible speeds. The motion is clear, said President Lee, her voice cutting through the murmurs. We are not extending an invitation of friendship. We are demanding they keep their distance. General Wu stood up, pointing to the tactical display. Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours. If they choose to ignore our warning, then we show them exactly why they should have listened, interrupted Director Han of the Global Defense Initiative. Project Firewall is ready for deployment. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, Earth spoke with one voice to the stars, not in welcome, but in warning. Admiral Jun received the latest transmission from Earth with raised eyebrows. The message was being broadcast on multiple frequencies, using increasingly sophisticated encoding that suggested the humans were rapidly learning Imperial communication protocols. "They continue to demand we halt our approach," his communications officer reported. This latest message includes specific coordinates marking the boundary of what they claim as their territory, their entire solar system. Captain Ta snorted, claiming an entire system when they've barely set foot on their own moon. "The audacity is almost admirable." "It's unprecedented," June agreed, studying the star chart. "In 8 millennia of expansion, we've encountered thousands of pre-FTL civilizations. All have either welcomed us as gods or cowered in fear. None have drawn a line in space and ordered us to respect it. How should we respond, Admiral?" asked the communications officer. June considered the situation carefully. "Send the standard first contact package. Explain the benefits of Imperial protection, the technological advancements we offer, the prosperity that awaits them as a protectorate." After a pause, he added, "But maintain battle readiness. Something about these humans continues to unsettle me." On Earth, in a buried bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Rivera's team worked frantically to decode the alien response. The room was a chaotic mixture of military personnel and civilian scientists from a dozen countries, all unified by a single purpose. "They're not backing off," Dr. Rivera announced, looking up from her screen. "They've sent what appears to be a standard greeting package, information about their empire, offers of technological exchange, terms of what they call incorporation. Terms of surrender, more likely," General Wu said grimly. "What have we learned about their capabilities?" A young analyst spoke up. "Their propulsion systems operate on principles we've only theorized. But we've identified power signatures, weapons arrays, and what appear to be teleportation capabilities." "And their defenses?" asked Director Han. "Multiple layers of energy shielding, unlike anything we've developed." "But," the analyst hesitated. "Go on," urged Dr. Rivera. "There's a pattern to the shield modulation. If we could match it precisely, we might be able to pass matter through at the exact frequency." Director Han exchanged glances with General Wu. "How long would it take us to develop such technology?" The analyst shrugged. "Normally, decades, but given what we've already learned from their communications alone." "Do it," ordered Director Han. "And deploy the mirror array. Let's see what else we can learn while they think we're just primitive monkeys." In orbit around Mars, automated platforms silently deployed thin, almost invisible structures. A network of advanced sensors disguised as primitive weather satellites. These were elements of Project Firewall, Earth's secret defense system developed over the past decade after the discovery of anomalous signals from deep space. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Tactical Officer Jin frowned at his instruments. "Admiral, the humans appear to be deploying some kind of orbital defense system." Admiral Jun examined the sensor readings. "Primitive weapons platforms." "That's what's strange, sir. The configurations don't make sense. Some appear to be simple nuclear weapons, others are empty shells with minimal power signatures. It's as if they're setting up decoys, but they must know our sensors can tell the difference." Captain Ta laughed. "Perhaps they think quantity will compensate for quality." But Admiral Jun wasn't amused. "Or perhaps they want us to underestimate them. What else are they doing?" "They've redirected several space telescopes toward our fleet and increased communications between their military installations. Their orbital traffic has increased by 300%, but most vessels appear to be civilian." Jun's inner eyelids flickered in thought. "They're studying us, and they're evacuating key personnel to space stations." He turned to his science officer. "Have you analyzed the data package we sent them? How quickly are they processing it?" The science officer checked his readings. "Unusually fast, Admiral. They've already begun responding using some of our own communication protocols that were embedded deep in the technical sections of our transmission." Captain Tay's amusement faded. "That should have taken them months to decipher." "Unless they think very differently than we do," Jun said quietly. "Signal the fleet. Maintain distance from the boundary they've established. For now. Sir, we're adhering to their demand, Tai asked incredulously. No, we're taking time to understand our opponent before engagement. That's basic strategy, Captain. Back on Earth, in a secure facility beneath MIT, Dr. Chang stared in amazement at the results of her team's analysis. This can't be right. Run it again. Her assistant tapped commands into the supercomputer. Same result, Doctor. Based on the communication patterns and energy signatures, we've been able to identify at least 7 distinct technologies we could adapt to our defense systems. In 3 days. Dr. Chang shook her head in disbelief. No wonder they're so confident about incorporating us. They have no idea how quickly humans can reverse engineer technology when our survival depends on it. She picked up the secure phone. Get me Director Han. Tell him Project Chameleon is ahead of schedule. We'll have the prototype ready for testing within 36 hours. In orbit around Jupiter, at a research station that officially didn't exist, engineers were already testing the first adaptation, a shield modulator designed from principles observed in the Imperial fleet's own defensive systems. The test director watched as the prototype successfully deflected an energy beam calibrated to match the alien weapon's signature. It works, he whispered, then louder. It actually works. His team erupted in cheers, but he quickly silenced them. We're not celebrating yet. This is just the beginning. They have thousands of years of technological advancement on us. We have days to close that gap before they decide whether to respect our warning. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral June studied the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. They've reconfigured their defense grid 3 times in the past cycle. It's as if they're adapting it based on what they learn about us. Impossible, Captain Tai insisted. They can't possibly understand our technology from passive observation alone. Then explain these energy signatures, Jum said, showing Ta the latest scan results. They're crude, but they bear a remarkable similarity to our own shield harmonics. For the first time, uncertainty showed on Ta's face. Could they really learn so quickly? That's what we need to find out, Jun replied. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. It's time we talk directly with these humans. As the small Imperial vessel detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth, neither side fully understood the historic significance of what was about to happen. The first face-to-face meeting between humanity and the galaxy's dominant power. And neither side was being entirely truthful about their intentions. The diplomatic shuttle glided toward Earth's orbital platform with practiced precision. Through the viewport, Ambassador Hyun observed the blue planet below, so similar to many the Empire had incorporated over the millennia. His 4 assistants busied themselves with final preparations, reviewing cultural briefings, and readying the standard incorporation documents. Remember, Hyun instructed his team, show respect but maintain authority. These humans must understand the benefits we offer and the futility of resistance. The Earth station, named Unity, had been hastily repurposed from a scientific outpost. It was crude by Imperial standards, all sharp angles and exposed structural elements, but functional. As the shuttle docked, Captain Ta noted the surprising compatibility of the docking mechanisms. They adapted their airlock to match our specifications, he murmured to Hyun. Impressive for the time frame. Ambassador Hyun nodded, but kept his face neutral. A simple engineering task. Don't overestimate them. When the airlock opened, 5 humans stood waiting in a semicircle. They wore matching blue uniforms with Earth's new planetary emblem, a stylized globe surrounded by stars. The central figure, a woman of middle years with short gray hair, stepped forward. Ambassador Hyun, I am Director Sophia Mason of the United Earth Council. Welcome to Station Unity. Hyun bowed slightly, impressed despite himself that they had correctly pronounced his name. The Eternal Empire brings greetings to Earth. We come in peace and with great opportunity. Director Mason smiled politely. We appreciate your visit, though we had hoped our boundaries would be respected. Boundaries evolve through dialogue. Hyun replied smoothly as his team followed him into the station. May I present Captain Ta, my military attaché, and my cultural and technological advisors. The human delegation led them to a conference room with a circular table, a design choice Hyun recognized as deliberately egalitarian. The windows offered a spectacular view of Earth rotating below. Small devices in the corners of the room caught his attention. They looked like simple cameras, but emitted subtle energy patterns his scanner couldn't identify. After brief pleasantries, Ambassador Hyun activated a holographic display showing the vast expanse of the Empire, thousands of stars linked by trade routes and administrative boundaries. The Eternal Empire spans 1/8 of this galaxy, he explained. For 8 millennia, we have brought peace, technological advancement, and prosperity to thousands of worlds. Earth would make a valuable addition to our community. Director Mason nodded politely. Your accomplishments are impressive. However, humanity has decided to develop independently at this time. A flash of annoyance crossed Hyun's face before he concealed it. This was not how first contact meetings usually proceeded. Perhaps you misunderstand, he said. We offer immediate technological advancements that would solve your energy crisis, eliminate disease, and extend your lifespans by centuries. Dr. Kwon, the Earth delegation scientist, leaned forward. And what would Earth provide in return? Minimal contributions, Hyun assured them. Access to your unique biological resources, reasonable taxation, and acceptance of imperial governance on interstellar matters only. Your day-to-day autonomy would remain largely intact. General Rodriguez, the military representative for Earth, spoke for the first time. So we surrender our independence for technology. We'll eventually develop ourselves. Hyun's translator struggled briefly with the word surrender, suggesting the human was using subtle connotations his device couldn't fully capture. Not surrender, Hyun corrected. Evolution, integration, protection. He gestured to his assistant, who placed a data crystal on the table. This contains the Standard Incorporation Treaty, adapted for Earth's specific situation. You'll find the terms most generous. Director Mason didn't touch the crystal. Ambassador, we've been clear from our first communication. Earth declines incorporation at this time. The room fell silent. Captain Ta shifted uncomfortably. This level of defiance from a pre-FTL civilization was unprecedented. Hyun maintained his diplomatic smile. Perhaps you could help me understand your reluctance. Is there a specific concern we might address? Mason exchanged glances with her team before responding. We have studied your transmissions and learned much about the Empire's history. We've observed that most incorporated worlds eventually lose their cultural uniqueness. Their arts, philosophies, and social structures gradually homogenize with imperial standards. A natural evolution toward superior practices, Hyun explained patiently. From your perspective, perhaps, Dr. Kwon interjected. But humanity values its diversity, its competing ideas, its distinct cultural expressions. We believe our chaotic evolution drives our innovation. Ambassador Hyun studied the humans more carefully. They seemed remarkably well-informed about imperial cultural patterns for a species that had only known of their existence for days. Your concerns reflect a primitive fear of change, he said gently. All species feel this initially. Within a generation, your children will wonder why you hesitated. Director Mason's expression hardened slightly. Ambassador, our position is firm. We request that the Empire respects Earth's boundaries and allows us to develop independently. We welcome peaceful trade and cultural exchange once we've achieved comparable technological development. Captain Ta could no longer contain himself. And when do you imagine that might be? Your civilization is centuries behind ours. An unexpected smile appeared on General Rodriguez's face. Perhaps not as many as you think. During the tense silence that followed, Dr. Kwon casually adjusted a device on his wrist. Ambassador Hyun noticed with alarm that his personal scanner briefly flickered before recalibrating. Did you just scan our technology? He demanded. Simply monitoring atmospheric conditions, Dr. Kwon replied smoothly. Our life support systems are still calibrating to your biological needs." Hyun didn't believe him for a second, but decided to change tactics. "Director Mason, the Empire has incorporated thousands of worlds. None have regretted joining us. None have refused our offer. Your position is unprecedented. Humanity specializes in the unprecedented," Mason replied calmly. "If you review our history, you'll find it's our defining characteristic." As the meeting continued, subtle details began to trouble Hyun. The humans' translation system was improving in real time, adapting to Imperial linguistic patterns. Their questions about Imperial technology seemed innocuously curious, but focused on key operational principles. Even their body language was shifting, unconsciously mirroring Imperial formal postures that hadn't been included in the cultural briefing materials. These humans were learning, adapting with alarming speed. After 2 hours of circular discussion, Ambassador Hyun conceded temporary defeat. "I will convey your position to Imperial Command. However, I strongly urge you to reconsider. The Empire's patience is not unlimited." As they prepared to depart, Dr. Kwon approached Hyun's technical advisor with a parting question about their shuttle's propulsion system. The advisor gave a simplified explanation, thinking nothing of it. Back aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral Jun reviewed Ambassador Hyun's report with growing concern. "They adapted our docking mechanisms, improved their translation matrix during the meeting itself, and their questions." He shook his head. "These aren't the actions of a primitive species afraid of superior beings." "What are you suggesting?" Hyun asked. "That perhaps they declined our offer not from fear or ignorance," Jun said quietly, "but because they've already calculated how quickly they can acquire our technology without submitting to our authority." As if confirming his suspicions, a new message arrived from Earth, a perfect holographic transmission using Imperial protocols that shouldn't have been possible with their technology. Director Mason's image appeared, smiling politely. "Ambassador Hyun, thank you for today's meeting. We look forward to your Empire's response to our position. In the meantime, we've prepared a small cultural exchange package that might help you understand humanity better." The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial leaders staring at each other in stunned silence. On Earth, Director Mason turned to her team as the transmission ended. "How long did it take to reverse engineer their holographic technology?" Dr. Kwon checked his tablet. 4 hours from initial scan to working prototype. Their reaction confirms they understand the implications." "And the other projects?" she asked. General Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Proceeding even faster now that we have direct scans of their systems." The ambassador never realized that everything in that meeting room was collecting data. Director Mason looked out the window at the Imperial ships hovering at the edge of the solar system. "Let's hope they're smart enough to respect our warning. I'd hate to show them how quickly humans can adapt when threatened." The Imperial Command Council sat in tense silence as Admiral Jun delivered his report on the failed negotiations with Earth. "They continue to refuse incorporation," he concluded, despite Ambassador Hyun's best diplomatic efforts. Grand Marshal Sun, a veteran of 100 planetary conquests, snorted dismissively. "This has gone on long enough. These humans need to understand their place in the galaxy." "I recommend caution," Jun said. "Their technological adaptation rate is unprecedented." "They sent us a holographic message," Captain Tai interjected. "That doesn't make them a threat." The Grand Marshal nodded. "Exactly. It's time for the standard demonstration of Imperial power. Move a battle group into their inner system. Nothing too overwhelming, just 3 warships. Show them our weapons capabilities from a safe distance. History tells us what happens next. They'll reconsider their position within hours." Admiral Jun wanted to object, but he knew the Council had made up its mind. The Empire had performed this show of force thousands of times across the galaxy. It had never failed. The Dauntless, the Swift Vengeance, and the Imperial will shall deploy, the Grand Marshal ordered. "Make sure Earth's primitive sensors can detect them clearly." 3 sleek warships broke formation from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth's orbit. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight as they positioned themselves in a triangle formation just beyond the moon. On Earth, Director Mason watched the approaching ships on the command center's main screen. General Rodriguez stood beside her, face grim. "They're positioning for weapons demonstration," he said. "Classic intimidation tactic." "Are we ready?" Mason asked. Dr. Kwan nodded from his station. "As ready as we can be with such limited time. Project Swarm is prepared for deployment." "And if it fails?" General Rodriguez met her eyes. "Then we've learned what we can from the Empire, and we'll have to develop countermeasures the hard way." Mason took a deep breath. "Initiate the response sequence." Aboard the Imperial Will, Captain Sue monitored Earth's military channels with amusement. Their primitive encryption was trivial to break, and the panicked communications between their defense stations provided entertainment for his bridge crew. "They're scrambling fighter aircraft," his tactical officer reported. "Primitive chemical propulsion vehicles that can barely reach orbit." "Let them come," Sue replied. "Our shields can withstand their most powerful nuclear weapons without strain. Once they realize this, they'll—" "Captain," the sensor officer interrupted. "They're launching a single missile from their lunar base." Captain Sue raised an eyebrow. "Just one. Curious. Track its trajectory. It appears to be targeted directly at our vessel. Primitive guidance system. Conventional explosive payload." Sue almost laughed. "They're testing our defenses with their weakest weapon. Let them see how futile resistance is. Intercept with standard defensive measures." A pulse of energy leaped from the Imperial Will, striking the approaching missile. The missile detonated in a surprisingly bright flash that momentarily blinded the ship's external sensors. "Unusual explosive yield," the tactical officer noted, "but no damage to our shields." Captain Sue was about to order a demonstration of the ship's main weapons when multiple alarms began blaring across the bridge. "Power fluctuations in all systems," the engineering officer shouted. "Shield generators are failing." "Impossible," Sue snapped. "Run diagnostics." "The Swift, Vengeance, and Dauntless are reporting the same issues," the communications officer announced, voice rising in panic. "They're losing power to all critical systems." Within minutes, all 3 Imperial warships were drifting. Their engines dead, shields down, weapons offline. Only basic life support and communications remained functional. "What just happened?" Captain Sue demanded as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow. His science officer looked up from her instruments, face pale. "The missile. It wasn't just an explosive. The detonation released billions of microscopic devices, some kind of nanoscale technology that penetrated our shields during the momentary recalibration after impact. They're disrupting our power systems at the molecular level." "That's impossible," Sue whispered. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. They couldn't possibly." He was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The main screen flickered to life, showing Director Mason alongside Dr. Kwan in what appeared to be Earth's command center. "Captain Sue," Mason began, "I hope we have your attention now." Sue struggled to maintain his composure. "This act of aggression will be met with the full might of the Empire." Mason smiled patiently. "This wasn't aggression, Captain. It was a demonstration, just like yours was intended to be. The nanodrones affecting your ships are programmed to dissipate within 6 hours, leaving your systems fully functional. We could have made them permanent or worse." Dr. Kwan stepped forward. "We've taken the liberty of transmitting data to your science division. It contains our analysis of several Imperial technologies we've already successfully reverse-engineered from our brief interactions." The screen split to show schematics of Imperial shield systems, power cores, and faster-than-light communication technology, all with Earth modifications and improvements. "This is impossible," Sue repeated. "You couldn't have developed these so quickly." "That's exactly what we've been trying to tell you," Mason replied. "Humanity doesn't think like other species you've encountered. We've spent our evolutionary history competing, adapting, and innovating at a pace that might seem alarming to a stable empire. In the main Imperial fleet, Admiral Jun received the transmission with growing horror. The evidence was undeniable. Earth had indeed adapted Imperial technology at an incredible rate. What might they do with a year of study? A decade. He immediately contacted the Grand Marshal. "We must withdraw from this system immediately." "Nonsense," the Marshal replied. "We'll send the entire battle fleet. No primitive world can stand against." "With respect," Joan interrupted, "you don't understand what we're facing. If they can reverse engineer our most advanced systems in days from minimal exposure, imagine what they could do with captured ships." As if reading his mind, a new message arrived from Earth. It contained only a brief video showing a laboratory where human scientists were already constructing what appeared to be a prototype of an Imperial energy weapon. "This is Director Mason's final communication on this matter." The message read, "We asked you to respect our boundaries. Now you understand why. It wasn't fear that motivated our warning. It was concern for your Empire's safety. We will return your disabled ships once our point is made. Please consider carefully whether further engagement serves either of our interests." Admiral Jun stared at the screen, finally understanding the truth. Earth's warning had never been about protecting themselves from the Empire. It had been about protecting the Empire from humanity's terrifying capacity for adaptation. "All ships maintain position," he ordered. "No vessel is to approach Earth without direct authorization." Captain Ta looked at him in shock. "Are we surrendering to primitives?" "No," Jun replied quietly. "We're recognizing a fundamental truth that the Empire has never encountered before, a species that can match our 8,000 years of development in a fraction of the time if properly motivated." He turned to face his officer directly. "We didn't heed their warning. Now we've given them a reason to accelerate." As the disabled Imperial warships drifted helplessly in space, engineers on Earth were already improving the nanodrone technology that had brought them down, building better versions based on principles gleaned from Imperial technology itself. The adaptation had begun, and there would be no stopping it now. The Grand Imperial Council chamber had never been so silent. 12 high-ranking officials sat around the crescent-shaped table, their eyes fixed on the holographic display in the center. Admiral Jun stood beside it, his normally confident posture now stiff with tension. "The humans disabled 3 of our warships with technology they developed in less than 1 week," he concluded. "Technology based on principles they gleaned from our own systems during minimal contact." Emperor Min leaned forward on his throne. In his 300 years of rule, no report had disturbed him like this one. "How is this possible?" he asked quietly. "Our scientists say it should have taken them centuries to understand our basic principles." Chief Scientist Yoon stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the display to show a series of graphs. "Majesty, we've analyzed their historical records, their scientific development, and their response to our presence. The results are troubling." She pointed to a steeply rising curve. "This represents the human rate of technological adaptation when faced with external pressure. It accelerates exponentially." "All species adapt," argued Defense Minister Park. "That's why we incorporate them, to guide that adaptation toward harmony with Imperial standards." "Not like this," Yoon replied. "Most species develop linearly with occasional breakthroughs. Humans consistently solve problems faster when threatened. Their entire history shows this pattern." She displayed images from Earth's history, primitive humans creating tools, then weapons, then complex machines, then digital systems, then early space travel. They went from first flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years, she explained. From discovering atomic theory to building nuclear weapons in less than half a century. Their competitive nature drives innovation at a pace we've never encountered. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Admiral Jun continued, "Based on our science division's analysis, if we provided humans with further examples of our technology, even by engaging in conflict, they would likely achieve technological parity with the Empire within decades, not centuries." "Impossible," scoffed Minister Park. "We have an 8,000-year head start." "With respect, Minister," said Admiral June, "the humans don't need to recapitulate our entire technological history. They can leap forward by understanding our principles and applying their unique perspective." He gestured to the display, which now showed the nanodrones that had disabled their warships. These devices combined Imperial power modulation principles with human-designed viral replication methods we've never considered. They're not just copying our technology. They're improving it. Emperor Min stared at the image of Earth rotating peacefully in space. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" June took a deep breath. "Something the Empire has never done before, Majesty. I recommend we officially recognize Earth's autonomy and establish a buffer zone around their solar system, not as a concession, but as a strategic necessity." An uproar erupted among the council members. The trade minister was particularly vocal. "Preposterous. We can simply blockade their system, prevent further technological development." "Which would only confirm we see them as a threat," Jum countered, "triggering exactly the adaptive response we fear." Emperor Min raised his hand for silence. "Admiral, in the Empire's history, we have never retreated from a pre-spacefaring civilization. What you suggest would be unprecedented." "These humans are unprecedented, Majesty," Jun replied simply. The Emperor turned to senior diplomat Kang. "What diplomatic implications would such a decision have?" Kang considered carefully. "It would create questions among our protectorate worlds. However, if presented properly, as a special case recognizing Earth's unique developmental path, we could minimize disruption. We could frame it as the Empire's wisdom in recognizing different paths to galactic citizenship." After hours of debate, Emperor Min made his decision. "Prepare the formal recognition of Earth's solar system as an autonomous zone. Draft a non-interference treaty that respects their boundaries while leaving open the possibility of peaceful contact in the future. The Empire will withdraw all military vessels immediately." As the council dispersed, Admiral Jun remained behind with the Emperor. "There's something more troubling than their technological adaptation," Jun said quietly. "In studying their history, I noticed their capacity for both great compassion and terrible destruction. They protect their weak yet wage war on their own kind. They create beautiful art yet design weapons of mass destruction. They're contradictory in ways that make them unpredictable." The Emperor nodded slowly. "All the more reason to give them space to mature. Perhaps in time, they will achieve the balance that took us millennia to discover." On Earth, Director Mason stood in the Lunar Observation Dome, watching as the Imperial fleet began its withdrawal. The massive ships, once so threatening, now moved respectfully beyond the boundary Earth had established. "They're really leaving," General Rodriguez said with amazement. "For now," Mason replied. "They're not fools. They understand what would happen if they forced us to keep adapting." Dr. Kwan studied the data streaming from their sensors. "The knowledge we've gained from this encounter has advanced our understanding by at least a century. The question is, what do we do with it?" Mason turned to face her team. "We do what humans have always done. We learn, we build, we prepare. But this time, we have an opportunity no human generation has ever had. Time to develop without existential threat. We should use it wisely." A communications officer interrupted. "Director, we're receiving a formal transmission from the Imperial flagship. Text only, in our language." The message appeared on the main screen. "To the United Earth Council. The Eternal Empire formally recognizes the autonomy of the Earth solar system. A buffer zone of 5 light-years will be established around your system, within which no Imperial vessels will enter without explicit invitation. We propose a treaty of non-interference to be developed through neutral intermediaries at your convenience. The Empire acknowledges humanity's right to develop along its unique evolutionary path." The room erupted in cheers and sighs of relief, but Mason raised her hand for quiet. "Send our response." Minutes later, aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral Jun received Earth's reply. "The United Earth Council accepts the Empire's recognition of our autonomy. We wish you no harm. We simply need space to grow in our own way. Perhaps when we're both ready, we can meet as equals. Until then, we will respect the boundaries between us and look forward to a day when our civilizations might learn from each other in peace. As the Imperial fleet moved away from the solar system, scientists and engineers across Earth continued their work, inspired by glimpses of what was possible. Projects that might have taken centuries now had blueprints. Technologies once thought impossible now had working prototypes. Humanity had faced its first contact with an advanced alien civilization, not with conquest or submission, but with a simple request for respect, backed by a demonstration of what made humans unique in the galaxy: the ability to adapt, innovate, and evolve at a pace that even an ancient empire found alarming. For the first time in its 8,000-year history, the Eternal Empire retreated, not from superior force, but from superior potential. And in that unprecedented decision laid the seeds of a new understanding between two civilizations that might, someday, reshape the galaxy together. The end.